Hi everybody, this is Laura, City Scrapper. Thank you so much for joining me on my channel. Today I have a layout that I made for a Punched Out Thursday to Die For. And for this layout, I'm using a Christy's Beautiful Life 30 Days of Sketches Series 9 sketch from day 8. This sketch was created for the Scrap Room by Suze Lee 72. I'm following along with the sketch in choosing 2 photos for this layout. I'm also using some papers that I had attempted to make a layout with before this, so you might notice that they're a little torn and even a little creased and wrinkled on the back, but I'm using the Bo Bunny collection called Altitude. It's an older collection. I've been using it quite a bit for this particular event that I've been scrapbooking for my daughter Julia. There have been a number of layouts and I decided to keep it consistent, and I also really love this collection, so I was happy to use it several times. I have both of my photos mounted on a piece of thick white cardstock. I cut 3 other pieces of paper into long strips, and I'm attaching them down to the paper here. I am trying very hard to make sure that they're straight. So I'm using my T-square quite a bit to make sure that the papers are straight, both horizontally and vertically. The strip of paper I'm putting down right now has a small tear on it, but I'm going to be covering that tear up with the photo cluster, and I'll be attaching that down in a few moments. Earlier, I attempted to make this same layout using the same sketch, but I made the strips of paper way too long, and there was only a very small area of white space on the bottom, and I didn't like the way that looked, so I tried to remove the papers as carefully as I could, and then I cut the paper shorter and attached them all down again. Now I want to add a line of snowflakes to the bottom of the pattern papers. In the sketch, you could see there's a line of hearts, but because my layout is winter themed, I thought that these snowflakes would be a good choice. I made the snowflakes by layering up 3 different snowflake punches. The 2 larger punches are Martha Stewart punches, and then the smaller punch that's in the center, that's a Paper Studio punch. A little bit later in the video, you'll see me layering up one of them in case you're curious of how I did that. The turquoise snowflakes are the tops of plastic drink stirrers. I used some heavy-duty scissors and I cut the stirrer part off, so just the snowflake was left. I punched out a very small snowflake. I put it in the center, and now I'm using some Glossy Accents to attach all of these snowflakes down to the layout. I wanted the snowflakes to contrast with the background so they would be easy to see. So I put in general, the dark blue snowflakes on top of the lighter blue backgrounds, and then I did the reverse for the dark blue background. Then I mixed in those plastic turquoise snowflakes. Now I have the largest snowflakes in place, so I wanted to embellish a little bit further with some smaller snowflakes. And I'm using some acrylic snowflakes that I got from Hobby Lobby. I haven't seen these yet this year. I really love these snowflakes, so I'm going to keep looking for them. Whenever I attach anything down to the layout that's made of plastic, I try to use the Glossy Accents. I find that the gel glue, which I use on the majority of items on my layouts, that holds paper really well, but it doesn't hold things like sequins and probably items such as this. So I was hesitant to use Glossy Accents at first because I used to use that to create a layer of shine on top of things, but it's also a really great adhesive. I'm going to call this layout January Joy. For the word joy, I use some close to my heart dies, and I cut out 3 layers of white cardstock and then 1 layer of pattern paper, and I'm using some ATG adhesive, and I'm attaching all of the layers together and putting the piece of pattern paper on the top. I love the way layering the cardstock creates just a little bit of dimension. I just think it adds something to the letters. I think the most important part about getting the letters to look correct when they're layered up is to make sure that they're all lined up really well. I guess I didn't line up the Y layers so perfectly, but I just fixed that by trimming off a little bit. And then so that the sides wouldn't be as prominent, I use some Distress Oxide and I ink the edges of all of the letters. I'm just using whatever ink is left on the dauber. I've been using Peacock Feathers, that's the turquoise color, and I've been using the Villainous Potion, I think it's called, that's the purplish color. So I applied that to the edge and that helped to take away the white edge, and now I'm attaching the letters down to the bottom right hand side of the layout. I love these iridescent dots. These are Paper Studio brand, and I'm picking out the smallest of the dots that are in this pack. There's 3 different sizes, and I'm placing it on the centers of the snowflakes that I made by punching them out. I added another one of those small acrylic snowflakes to the title. I was going to put it in the center of the O, but then I was thinking that it would look a little more interesting between the O and the Y. My brain always wants to do the most symmetrical thing, but I find that sometimes making something a little more asymmetrical is a little more interesting. Along the right side of the photos, and I did this earlier, I put a punched out border. I used an EK Success border punch to make that strip, and now I'm adding some pearls to it. I add 3 different colors. I add a lighter blue color, a darker blue color, and then a purple, and I'm using some of the smallest pearls that I have. Then I was thinking that those same pearls would look really pretty on the centers of all of the snowflakes that I didn't put those large iridescent dots on. So I used all 3 colors and I put them on the acrylic snowflakes, and I also put them on those turquoise plastic snowflakes that I have on the layout. I was thinking that I wanted to have a few more snowflakes to fill in a couple of little spots. So I'm using these snowflake stickers. They're from Hobby Lobby. I like them because they're very shiny and I like the way they come in different sizes. So I peel a couple of them off and I'm sticking them on the top and on the bottom of the cluster. I like the way they looked against the pattern paper, so I added a couple more on the top. And then even though on the bottom they match in with the white cardstock, they still add a nice element because they are so shiny. And then I put a pearl in the center of most of them, and that also helps them to be a little bit more visible. I also found that these stickers peeled up rather easily without tearing the paper underneath, so that was another added benefit of them. I think it's very hard to know how things will look until you try them out, and then sometimes later on, after looking at the layout for a while, I will see things a little differently and then change my mind. These photos were taken quite a few years ago in January, and you can't see any snow, but there was a lot of snow on the ground, and I can tell from the way all the girls are dressed that it must have been a pretty cold day, because I know that my daughter Julia back then really didn't like to wear a coat, so it must have been pretty cold for her to be wearing a hat and a scarf. Now that she's older, she wears a coat all the time. It must have just been a phase. I really love the way those hats, like Adrian wore in Rocky, have come back in style with the big pom-pom on the top. I'm not sure if those are still in style, but for a while everybody was wearing them, and I just love those hats. I'm adding some pearls to the centers of those white snowflake stickers that I just added. Now I'm adding some pearls to the snowflakes on the left-hand side of the layout. That turquoise and white strip of paper, that was a pattern paper that had some snowflakes already on it, and I decided to cut around the snowflakes and have them overlap the photo. There are 4 snowflakes on that strip, so I put one of the iridescent dots and then a small pearl in each color on those snowflakes. I wanted to bring a little bit of purple to the left-hand side of the layout, so I punched out some photo corners. I used my EK Success scalloped photo corner punch, and I punched out enough photo corners for each of the corners of both photos. And once again, I'm using whatever Distress Oxide is left on the dauber to ink the edges. And now I'm using some ATG adhesive and I'm attaching the photo corners down to the layout. As I was attaching the photo corners down, I was thinking there might be a little bit too much purple, so I decided to mix it up a little bit and add some of the dark blue photo corners, and I like the way that breaks up the purple. I absolutely love the color palette of this collection. I love the turquoise and the navy blue and the purple together. I think it's just perfect for winter. Now I want to complete the title. I'm using some Hip Kit Club letters to write out the word January. I started at the end so that I could plan how far the word joy and January would be from each other. However, later on I went back and I moved the two words closer together anyway. I thought that these were the perfect letters. They were a really nice color. They go really well with the pattern paper. And then they're also a little scripty, which is a nice contrast to the manuscript word joy. Now I'm adding some pearls to the photo corners. I used blue pearls on the blue photo corners and purple pearls on the purple photo corners. I wanted to add something between the two words, January and joy, so I used another one of those acrylic snowflakes. And then after I glued it down, I added a small blue pearl to the center. I was happy with the big line of snowflakes going across on the bottom of the page, but I wanted to add something else to the top of the page. It was looking a little bare up there. So I looked at the sketch and I realized that there was a little tiny cluster on the upper right-hand side, and I looked through my stash to figure out what I could add. I found these Recollections polar bear stickers, and I thought that these would be perfect. I love the way there were several different bears in the sticker pack. They weren't all the same. So I picked out 3. The one on the left is standing up tall, which is perfect because he fits in that spot on the left-hand side of the photos really well. I tucked one into the snowflake cluster, and then I'm going to put one on the upper right-hand side. So this is what I did to layer up the snowflakes. I used a large Martha Stewart punch. I punched out a blue snowflake. Then I used a smaller Martha Stewart punch. I punched out a white snowflake, and then I used a Paper Studio punch for that very, very small snowflake in the center, and I used the dark blue paper to make that snowflake. I feel like it's super simple to just layer up some punched out snowflakes, and then I added a little bit of bling with one of those iridescent dots. I used some heavy duty Fiskars scissors. Those things seem to cut through anything that I've tried to cut with them, and I cut off the bottom part of the drink stirrer, so I would just have that turquoise plastic snowflake left. I used the small Paper Studio punch. I punched out a white snowflake to go in the center of that turquoise snowflake, and then I added a little purple pearl to the center of it, and I'm making a little cluster, so I added another one of those acrylic small snowflakes. The polar bear had his paw up, almost like he was reaching out, and his eyes were looking up. So I thought I would put another one of those acrylic snowflakes a little bit above him so that it would look like he was reaching out and looking at the snowflake. And now I'm using the Glossy Accents, and I'm attaching all of those snowflakes down to the layout. It takes a little bit of time for the Glossy Accents to dry, but once it dries, I feel that it's a very strong adhesive. I added a pearl to the center of that last snowflake, and that completes this layout. Here are some close-ups of the layout. Thank you so much for watching this video, everybody. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to watch this video. Please take a look in the description box. You'll find the links to the other scrapbookers who are collaborators on a Punched Out Thursday to Die For. There's Sonia, Ronnie Sue, Kathy, and they always create beautiful layouts, and I hope that you will check them out. I hope that everybody has a fantastic day, and I will be back again next Thursday with another Punched Out Thursday to Die For. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.